All right, everybody. We are going to do Lamentations today. There's a couple reasons why I'm going to do Lamentations. The first was, this morning I was listening to the Oldest Stories podcast, and I recommend it. It's great to learn Mesopotamian history. Um, and the guy who does it does a great job. But he was doing Lamentations today, and oh my goodness, he was just completely misinterpreting it, in my opinion. But all respect to him. Um, the other reason I want to do it is because recently I read the Lamentations of right? And in the Lamentations of oh my God, that was such a dramatic poem. It's so great. Very deep. Um, and good poetry, great, amazing ideas and thoughts and words. And here we have Jeremiah, right? He's doing his Lamentations, right? And we know that, or I assume that the Lamentations of was written before the Lamentations of Jerusalem. So we could assume that Jeremiah was a fan. No, well, we can't assume that, but we can assume that he was a fan in some way, maybe of the poetry. Maybe he was a fan of the thoughts and ideas. I don't know. We'll see here today. I think he is. Because I think the author of the Lamentations of really had this moral attitude. And Jeremiah has the same attitude, I believe. And it's all about morality being the strength of the people, um, and immorality being their weakness. um, but in Lamentations of and I think what we'll see here today is sometimes this crying, these lamentations are actually mockery. Like Jeremiah is actually not crying. Like, this is poetry, and he's using poetry to hide his message. Because his message is very explosive, right? It's the same message of Moses and Samuel, um, and it's really a message that the law should be in charge, and there should be just freedom and a natural meritocracy of the meritorious rising, not above others, but just rising in their own competency. Um, and the rabbis are supposed to be the arbiters and the final judges, right? Now the rabbis aren't supposed to be tyrants, because I think Jeremiah and Moses and the Lamentations of I think they believe in freedom. So this is I think Jeremiah and all the rest of them believe in a light theocracy, right? But it's all about the law, and it's really all about morality, and it's about what is and we talk about theology, and you have all this stupid ass Greek shit. When people talk about God, but what I see in the Torah is God, the Yahweh is love. Yahweh is bravery. Yahweh is, he loves the merit. If you can, if you can craft, Moses was for craftsmanship. If you can craft, that makes you great in God's eyes. Not having some title of prince by your name, or king by your name. Um, but anyways, so I'm excited to do this. So let's start it up. Uh, and it came to pass after Israel was taken captive and Jerusalem made desolate, Jeremiah sat weeping and lamented with this lamentation over Jerusalem, and said, how does the city that was filled with people sit solitary? She has become as a widow, she that was magnified among the nations, and princes among the provinces, has become tributary. She weeps sore in the night, and her tears are on her cheeks, and there is none of all her lovers to comfort her. All that were her friends have dealt deceitfully with her. They are become her enemies. Okay, so let's stop here. Now there can be a couple different interpretations of who these friends were, because the lament is over Jerusalem, right? Um, so it's Jerusalem's friends, right? Um, he's not talking. He's talking about a city right now. He's not talking necessarily about the Jewish people, right? And so one interpretation is that the friends of Jerusalem, those who used to be the friends of Jews, are the Jews himself. He's talking about the Jews right here with these friends. Um, and the Jews themselves have become the enemies to Jerusalem, right? And that's kind of also in line with the Lamentations of right? Um, Now, of course, you could also take this and say those who were her friends. Other tribes that traded with them and interacted with them. So neighbors, right? Neighbors who used to maybe fight alongside of them against the Philistines or against whoever, have dealt deceitfully with her, right? But we have to ask ourselves, um, how could the Jews have allowed their friends to successfully be dealt deceitfully? Right. I mean, there's this in this second interpretation where the friends are non-Jewish neighbors, former allies, or trading partners or whatever. They're now dealing deceitfully with her. Um, I mean, they obviously weren't her friends, right? So there's this pride, right? Pride is to not see properly, and so there's in the second interpretation there would be definitely this pride amongst the Jewish people for not seeing that her friends aren't actually her friends. Judea is gone into captivity by reason of her affliction, and by reason of the abundance of her servitude. She dwells among the nations. She has not found rest. All her pursuers have overtaken her between her oppressors. Um okay. Here, this line right here, Judea is gone into captivity by reason of her affliction. I don't know what that means. By reason of her affliction. And by reason of the abundance of her servitude. Okay, so I mean, right here, he's basically just talking about immorality, right? There's the idea that um, immorality is slavery, right? Um, if you're hateful, then you're always going to be looking for enemies. That's not a free will, right there. Um, you're enslaved to this chip on your shoulder. Um, so she is. It's her servitude, it's her immorality, which is the reason, right? And her affliction, whatever. Yeah, maybe somebody can help me out with that one. But definitely, again, she's into captivity by reason of the abundance of her servitude, right? So he's criticizing the Jewish people living in Jerusalem. um, the ways of Sion mourn, because there are none that come to the feast. All her gates are ruined, her priests groan, her virgins are led captive, and she is in bitterness in herself. Her oppressors are become the head, and her enemies have prospered. For the Lord has afflicted her because of the multitude of her sins. Her young children are gone into captivity before the face of the oppressor. And all her beauty was taken away from the daughter of Zion. Her princes were as rams finding no pasture, and are gone away in weakness before the face of the pursuer. Okay, um, so here it says her princes are as rams finding no pasture, right? When I was listening to the oldest stories, it said deer, right? But rams, deer, I think deer makes more sense in this context. I don't know. Um, and are gone away in weakness before the face of the pursuer. So, again, who are the princes of the Jews? The princes of the Jews are the leaders of the Jews, right? And the leaders of the Jews are gone away in weakness, right? So he's contrasting here before the fall of Jerusalem as opposed to during and after the fall of Jerusalem, right? Because before the fall of Jerusalem, these princes are acting as lions. Like, we're the top Jews. We're the fucking top Jews. They're acting as lions, right? But when push comes to shove, when a real enemy starts to come after them, they are fleeing away in weakness, right? So again, this is all about a meritocracy, and he's criticizing Jerusalem because he's saying that the top Jews are not actually the top Jews, right? This would be what the Book of Enoch would call countenance, right? The countenance of these princes before were up, but now they're down, right? But the countenances of the moral Jews before the fall were down, and thus God long suffers the unrighteous, according to Enoch. But then, like here, he's mocking the daughters of Zion, right? All their beauty has been taken away, right? This was not true beauty, because true beauty in a woman is morality, not expensive things. And so that's, I mean, again, this is not true lamentation right here. He's mocking the Jews. Jerusalem remembered the days of her affliction and her rejection. She thought on all her desirable things. which were from the days of old, when her people fell into the hands of the oppressor, and there was none to help her. When her enemies saw, they laughed at her habitation. Jerusalem has sinned a great sin, and therefore she has come into tribulation. All that used to honor her have afflicted her, for they have seen her shame. Yea, she herself groaned and turned backward. So all that used to honor her have afflicted her, for they have seen her shame. Right. Um. So in other words, again, the law is about just fucking freedom and morality. Um. And so what is her shame? Right. Well, her shame we don't know, but what do we know? We do know that her shame caused her friends to turn on her. Those who used to honor her have turned on her because of her shame. So something the Jews have done have really pissed people off, right? So this there's something secretive going on in Jerusalem with this great sin. Um, Her uncleanliness is before her feet. She remembered not her last end. She has lowered her boasting tone. See, again, this is countenance. Same thing you see in the book of Enoch. Her countenance was boasting before all this. There is none to comfort her. Behold, O Lord, my affliction, for the enemy has magnified himself. The oppressor has stretched his hand on all her desirable things. For she has seen the Gentiles entering into her sanctuary, concerning whom thou dost command that they should not enter into my congregation. All her people groan, seeking bread. And yeah, I mean, I think this is more mockery from Jeremiah. The fact that the Gentiles are entering into the sanctuary is very humiliating, and he's just putting salt into the wound. It just is beloved Jeremiah, right? A very righteous Jew. Um, all her people groan seeking bread. They have given their desirable things for meat to restore their soul. Lord, look, for she has become dishonored. Um, like we can talk about this honor thing real quick. I've been reading or seeing some of these Canaanite um, text, and within these Canaanite text, you have honor, like you have just kingship and aristocracy and honor is everything, right? And none of these people would ever, none of these top Canaanites would ever buy their meal. Their meal is just free. That's just how it is. So the fact that they're buying their food, I mean, again, when Moses talks about the giants, he's this is a poetic way of criticizing aristocracy or legal privilege of one type or another. because again, for Moses, it's about the meritocracy. So these are good lines. You know, Jeremiah's he's doing his thing right here. But like, I mean, by okay, by for Jeremiah to be, uh, so uncouth, really means that here he's not really crying; he's angry, right? He's angry. Um, about what's happening. All ye that pass by the way, turn and see if there is sorrow like to my sorrow, which has happened to me. The Lord who spoke by me has afflicted me in the day of his fierce anger. He has sent fire from his lofty habitations. He has brought it into my bones. He has spread a net for my feet. He has turned me back. Okay, what's happening here? Okay, all ye that pass by the way, turn and see if there is sorrow like to my sorrow. So who is my? Is this Jerusalem or is this Jeremiah? I mean, who spoke by me? That would be Jeremiah. um, so I don't know. He has watched over my sins. They are twined about my hands. They have come up on my neck. My strength has failed, for the Lord has laid pains on my hands. I shall not be able to stand. The Lord has cut off all my strong men from the midst of me. So this is Jerusalem speaking, right? He has summoned against me a time for crushing my choice men. The Lord has trodden a winepress for the virgin daughter of Judah. For these things I weep. Mine eye has poured out water because he that should comfort me, that should restore my soul, has been removed far from me. My sons have been destroyed because the enemy has prevailed. Zion has spread out her hand, and there is none to comfort her. The Lord has commanded concerning Jacob. His oppressors are round about him. Jerusalem has become among them as a removed woman. The Lord is righteous, for I have provoked his mouth. Hear, I pray you, all people, and behold my grief. My virgins and my young men are gone into captivity. Okay, okay. I called my lovers, but they deceived me. My priests and my elders failed in the city, for they sought meat that they might restore their souls, and found it not. Behold, O Lord, I am afflicted, my belly is troubled, and my heart is turned within me, for I have been grievously rebellious. Abroad the sword has bereaved me, even as death at home. Here I pray you, for I groan, there is none to comfort me. All mine enemies have heard of mine afflictions, and rejoice because thou hast done it. Thou hast brought on the day, thou hast called the time. They are become like to me. Let all their wickedness come from before thy face, and strip them, as they have made a gleaning for all my sins. For my groans are many, and my heart is grieved. So, I mean, one of the things that I get out of this is that, um, Jeremiah really wants the Jews to see their see why all this came about, right? And he wants them to reform. and repent and change their ways. And so, this is a repentant Jerusalem, pleading to God, like, I've been rebellious against you. And so Jerusalem is repenting. It sounds like. Boo, boo, boo. So this is almost a poem that kind of like this later part here is kind of a poem that is now purifying. He's like almost Jeremiah is almost purifying Jerusalem. This is a purification prayer almost. Possibly. Let's see. Intermittent fasting. Next. What? No. Close. Okay, I think we're on Lamentations 2 right now. Yeah. Get off of there. Shit. La 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 la. And I guess we'll start this on another video.